let's go to Maryland. Maryland has a very interesting way of computing the interest, and they go for anywhere in Maryland, depending on the county and or municipality, whether it's the county, Baltimore County, et cetera, or the city of Baltimore. That you have here an interest rate running from 6% to 24% a year, depending on the county or the municipality, right? So, I mean, even if you look at this, for crying out loud, I mean, there's no reason for anybody that's, looking to do tax liens to only settle for 6%, but just 6% still beats everything else out there, hands down. It's just, and here, 6% goes begging. Here, we're doing double-digit interest return. Name me another investment where you can get that, and it's backed by real estate, and you don't have to own the real estate in order to get those kind of returns, 24%. So it varies by the county or the municipality, and the redemption period in Maryland is 6 months to 2 years. Each county handles the sales differently, right? They do a different type of sale, when they do the sale, et cetera, et cetera. It happens to be one of the more independent places like that. But take a look at those rates, 6% to 24%. My goodness, 24%. The sales are held, again, that varies by county, too, as to when they hold the sales. So you want to, get right on with whatever advisors that you have, that you've done, because you guys have done the program. Talk to them about, about when the sales are going to be held. Talk to them about the methodology. Talk to them, all right, and get all this information together so that you can get out there and do as much of this business as you possibly can. Maryland can be a really good state for tax sales, right? And as I said, the interest rate can be as high as 24%, and the redemption period can be as short as 6 months. But all the sales are done separately by each county, and that can be complicated for the novice investor because they go, oh my goodness, it's not the same in each county. Well, it's not the same in each county. That's just the way it is. So you'll have to, get with the counties that have the highest rates of return that you want, because that's what I like the students to do, is to go after the returns first, right, and then worry about the properties secondarily. Because here's the thing. What's wrong with an investment strategy where, even if you don't make the big hit or windfall on a property, you wind up with getting 18 or 20 or 24% return? That's why I love tax liens. Mississippi, the interest rate is 18% a year or 1.5%, 1.5% a month. Redemption period is 2 years. And after that 2-year period, then you can apply for a deed. The sales are held in August. That's the way it's done in Mississippi. Nice hot month, August, to do the sales. The bids begin at the minimum bid amount and continue into overbid. Again, the overbid here is not returned upon redemption, and no interest is granted beyond the minimum bid amount. So Mississippi, I would not want to get into, I wouldn't want my students to get into an overbid situation because it's not returned upon redemption. That means that the state or that county in that particular state, based on what this says, right, that means that they're going to keep that. So, again, in other areas, you get the overbid back. And that's why when you're buying over-the-counter, right, overbid, underbid, whatever, when you're buying an over-the-counter property or a tax lien certificate, redeemable deed that you're buying over-the-counter, you don't have to worry about any bidding, whether it's, overbid or a premium bid or open outcry or whatever. It's just a straight sale, meaning if something is offered at a particular price, and then you buy it for the county at that amount. But you have to do your due diligence so that you know how much that property is worth. That's against that lien, right? So, and then we have Missouri. Missouri is 10% for the year, and then a redemption period is 1 year, and you get an automatic deed. That's a very quick thing. So either you get 10%, and after a year of the redemption period, you get the deed automatically. You don't have to go through the foreclosure process, that kind of thing. It's just built in, right? The sales are held in August. The bidding begins on the taxes and penalties that are owed, right? And just understand this is a good time to mention this as well, is that a county isn't giving you anything that it doesn't receive from somebody else. So a county collects the taxes from the taxpayer, and they also charge the taxpayer a penalty. And when they charge a taxpayer a penalty, that's where the county is getting the money to give you the interest. All right, they're not just taking money out of their own pocket to pay you an interest. The interest comes from the county collecting a penalty from the taxpayer. So, so as an example, in Missouri, the interest rate that you're going to get as an investor is 10%. But that means to you, and you just have this knowledge in your head, that the county isn't being so nice to you. The county is using you so that the county can pay its workers, and the county can build its bridges and its roads and that sort of thing. But the county is basically borrowing money from you, right? Because you're paying for that tax lien certificate, and you're getting that 10% interest, as an example, in Missouri. That means then that that some county in Missouri is charging some taxpayer in Missouri at least 10% as a penalty, so that that 10% can be paid to you. And that's the whole thing that you need to understand, is that the county is not just not just willy-nilly giving up its returns. They're not doing that. They're collecting it from somebody else, right? Montana, okay, one of the states out there, a big sky country. It's amazing how much land there is out there. It's just a beautiful place. But take a look at this: 10%, 10% per year. The redemption period is 2 to 3 years, and then you can apply for the deed. Right? The sales are held in July. Right? The bids begin at the maximum interest rate, and then decrease in 0.25% increments, just like we discussed earlier on some of the other states. And Montana does very little in the way of putting the sales online. It's kind of a closed system. If you're very interested in Montana, you're going to have to do some more footwork. What we like to do is to do as much work online as possible. And quite frankly, it's not like it's an 18% return like Florida, or 16% like Arizona, or 25% like Texas. Still, 10% is very healthy, but certainly I'm not. We're not saying that anybody should get on a plane so that they can go and get 10% interest on an investment. Okay, so that's Montana. Nebraska, the interest rate is 14% a year. The redemption period is 3 years. At the end of the 3-year period, you can then apply for the deed, right? Some of the states, you saw that it's automatic, right? That you don't have to apply for anything. It's just boom, it's instant. So either they redeem and you get all of your money back with an interest, and if they don't redeem, wham, it's an automatic thing that you just get the house. That happens to be a very streamlined method. On here, the bids begin at the maximum interest rate the same way, right? It's a bid down and decrease in those 0.25% increments like we talked about before. Again, the bidders here don't have to attend the auction. They can send their bids in by mail prior to the sale. So Nebraska is one of those places where some of our students that don't like using the Internet can send in their bids by mail before the sale. All right, so it's one of those places, and they've been doing that for quite a period of time. So that's Nebraska. Then we have Nevada. Nevada has an interest rate of 12% per year, right? The redemption period is 2 years, right? And at the end, and this is the thing, okay, in Nevada, at the end of that 2-year period, you can request the deed, right? And the sales are held at different months, different times, depending on the particular county. And again, this is a bid down as well. And it says the tax lien sales are held sporadically. It really it means this. It means that they're held when a particular county decides it should be held. So it's not necessarily every month. It's not necessarily every other month. It's not mandated that way. All right. It's just they do it on an as-needed basis. Right. New Jersey. New Jersey has an interest rate of 18% a year. That's 1.5% a month. The redemption period is 2 years. After the 2 years, at that point, then you can apply for the deed. Remember, before the redemption period is up, you don't own a property, right? What you do is you own a financial instrument, and within that period of time, if the property is redeemed, right, meaning that if that particular taxpayer pays the taxes off, that means that you're going to get your what? You're going to get your principal back with interest, right? But at the end of the 2-year redemption period in New Jersey, at that point, you can then apply for the deed. And the sales, depending on the municipality, right, or the county, you've got municipalities. Municipality would be a city, a township, right? So they hold the sales that way. It's not just the county, right? So we start with the federal government, right? Then we have the state government. Then after you have the state government, then you have a county. Then county, then municipality, city, township, et cetera, et cetera. The sales are held different times depending on the municipality, right? And again, it's that 0.25% increment on a bid down as well. Okay, that's what happens in New Jersey, it's just this 18% is just a wonderful interest rate in New Jersey. New Jersey happens to be another great place to buy these. New York, most of New York does deeds in the state of New York, in the city of New York. They do tax lien certificates. It's 14% a year. It's mostly large corporations that have come in, and they do most of the business in New York City. But it's 14% a year. The redemption period is 1 year. It's quite the legal process to obtain a deed in New York. I'm from New York, and New York City certainly is not my first choice to do tax lien certificate investments because what we look for as investors, what I look for, is an ease of working the process and at getting a very hefty interest rate, and then at the same time having the possibility of getting a property far below market value. And New York City, Manhattan, and the surrounding boroughs doesn't necessarily fit into that category because it's a little difficult to work in. At any rate, you see it right on the bottom here. New York City does not sell tax liens to the general public. Okay, there a couple of corporations that do the ones in New York City. Let's go to Oklahoma. Oklahoma has an interest rate of 8% a year. When I say Oklahoma has an interest rate of 8% a year, I mean Oklahoma has an interest rate of 8% a year on their tax lien certificates, right? The redemption period is 2 years, and then you apply for the deed. The sales are held in October in Oklahoma. I don't know why they picked October. It almost looks like it's because it's got that month begins with an O, and so does Oklahoma. I have no idea. But that's the way they've done it. Notice the differences. Some states have very specific times and months at the dates that the sales are held, right? And some don't. Some it's a moving target. That's okay, but I can tell you this: the sales will be held, right? So the same thing. The methodology is also the bidding down the interest. It starts with the maximum rate of interest, and it decreases in the 0.25% increments. And again, Oklahoma, like Montana, some of the county-by-county stuff is a little more difficult to find. They haven't been as as internet public record friendly as some of the other places. But and 8% is certainly respectable. But I'm not going to break my neck to run and get 8% a year when I have to do a lot of work on foot, as opposed to doing something on the internet. South Carolina has an interest rate of 12%, and It's got an 8% penalty for the first year plus 4% if it's redeemed during the second year. The redemption period in South Carolina is 1 year or 18 months based on the method of taxation, right? So that's just the way it is. The sales are held in either October or in November, right? And they also do a bidding down of the interest rate in 0.25% increments, right? And the bidders have to pay by the end of the day or be fined. Meaning, when you're bidding at the auction, okay, and you're there in South Carolina, you have to check out. Meaning, you've got to pay for your tax lien certificates by the end of the day, or South Carolina levies a penalty on people that don't pay by the end of the day. And some places they're actually well, they just come right up to you when you're the winning bidder, and instead of waiting until the end of the day, they want the money right on the barrelhead right there, which is again different than over the counter. But we'll talk more about over the counter in some of the other modules. All right, and then we have Vermont. Vermont is a 12% per year return. Redemption period is a year, and then you can apply for the deed. The sales vary by municipality in Vermont. It's interesting, a lot of arguments in some of the places. Vermont is one of the very independent places in the United States. But the methodology begins the same thing. The bids begin at the maximum interest rate and decrease in 0.25% increments. There's nothing wrong with 12%. And Vermont is one of the colder states. You got Lake Champlain up there and all that all that stuff. But that's what it is in Vermont. It's 12%. West Virginia is another 12% state. The redemption period in WV, West Virginia, is 17 months. And after the 17 months, after that redemption period is over, then you can apply for the deed. The sales are held in October or November in West Virginia. And the bids begin at the amount of the lien and then go on to the